Now, do those issues happen on gaming consoles? Sometimes, but it's much fewer and farther between. They let me bring the game back opened. That's how known the issue was. And that's the thing with PCs that drives me nuts, man, is that it's getting less often, but there's a lot of times, like the Quake. I remember and you're under your video, I mentioned Quake, and you're like, dude, Jesus Christ, it's a game from 2000.
Yeah.
It's not that my hardware obviously can't handle it, but what happened is that, it's just not compatible with it. And it should be. Like, okay, yes, crappy hardware for the 360 aside, they just had Quake.
Just a second, bro. Just a second. Okay, you're saying those Quake games are compatible with your computer, but the first Quake game online runs live, Quake Live runs in a browser.
It ain't working. I downloaded them through Steam, and I actually contacted support thinking I was going nuts. The only one that'll work is Quake 1, because I got the whole pack, because I was like, oh, sweet. Like, Quake is honestly the only game I like from id. I like Doom too, but I could live without it. The whole pack, Quake 1 runs. I actually tried older drivers to see too, so I always keep older drivers, because even with NVIDIA cards, you have to have an extra set of drivers around, because sometimes games run better with older drivers. Nothing. After Quake 1, which runs buggy, nothing. Now, 360's hardware being shit aside, they came out with Quake 3, Arena, and it actually has a new single-player thing. If, and I understand the reliability issues you're going to mention, any 360 with a hard drive will run that. Because even with the revisions of the hardware, all the console's capabilities are the same. For games, they're the same.
So you can play Halo Reach campaign co-op with a 4 gig Xbox 360S model.
No, you can't. But that's the hard drive for them is a peripheral. It's not an upgrade. Hard drive, even for a PC, you can technically say is a peripheral, not an upgrade. Because the GPU, and you made a point that kind of had me stumble a little bit. The GPU and CPU in both the PS3, 360, they're the same. There are revisions. They may make them cooler and smaller. They've done it since the beginning of time. Even the Intellivision had a revision because they wanted to save money on it.
Yes, but no platform had problems as much as the Xbox 360 before. And these changes were made specifically to increase reliability.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they marketed it. That's what they told everyone. Get the new Falcon chip. You'll have less problems with ROD. The new Jasper chip makes everything better. They even, in 2008, they switched out the drive in the 360 for another one to attempt to fix the disk scratching problem. But that still didn't help because they took out the little rubber stoppers around the lens to keep the disk from hitting the lens.
But that's you're talking the stupidity of one hardware development company. That's not happening with the PS3, and that's not happening with the Wii.
My point I was making against Mike's point is that they had hardware changes, and that's why he says that their lifespan is short, the PC's lifespan. And I said, well, they changed the hard drives and they changed everything else in the PS3 and 360. All these things is basically just gimped PCs. That's it. You have to buy things for them. Maybe not the PS3 as much as other ones, but if you want the experience that you can get on a PC, you have to spend the money and buy separate parts.
Like separate parts? Like you got to do the same. Like for example, man, like I had an 08, an 8800 GT with a dual core processor. And I could tell you right now, the experience isn't the same. And I wasn't running at max settings. The games now, Just Cause 2 is a perfect example. Like, it makes my 5830 choke, and I'm still not at max. I wouldn't have to. Those are upgrades. You're still saying, if you have a launch PS3, you are running, Castlevania Lords of Shadow at the same frame rate that you're running it now. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. My only point is that these consoles have hardware changes just as much as, PCs. But maybe the PS3 does have the where you can play the same games, even though newer PS3s you don't have any backwards compatibility. But for the Xbox 360, you won't have the same experience all the way across the Xbox 360s. There's some Xbox 360s as to where you can't install your second disc to Forza 3. You can't install your games. You can't even download a single game from Xbox Live.
I had a launch 360 up to a year ago, and I was I was fine. How? If I have a hard drive, I would actually on my 360 now, because I don't have a hard drive for it, I installed the Forza disc to an 8 gig flash drive. Why? I understand there's a bug with Halo Reach.
Can you install your games to a flash drive from Xbox Live?
Yeah. I have what the hell is it? Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
An official Xbox 360 flash drive, or one that you have to format?
One I had to format.
One that you had to buy, or one that you already had?
One that I already had.
So you had to buy a third-party piece of hardware in order to extend the experience on your console.
Yeah, but then you have to do the same thing for the PC.
Exactly.
No, man. You're trying to compare, buying a $150 or $200 processor, or even a $90 to $100 video card to a
games today can run on single cores. You don't have to upgrade your processor every 2 or 3 years, like you said.
Really? How? How do you not have to upgrade your processor every 2 to 3 years? How? How am I
minimum requirements for
my original AMD dual core? How would I run?
Games today have a minimum requirement of single core, maybe like 3 gigahertz or something like that. I've seen it. Crysis can run on single cores. Single cores is like 2005, 2004. We're talking Pentium 4s here. Now,
dude,
everyone...
I had it running on a Pentium 4 with hyper-threading. So in theory, it was pseudo-dual channel. And that's all there was in 2005. 2006, I'm actually pretty damn positive, was the first dual-core processor from Intel. And that was the Pentium dual-core.
And your only problem was that it didn't run the way you wanted to. You were talking 15 frames per second, 20 frames per second.
That was wishful thinking, yeah.
And, people play it at those frame rates.
That's a horrible gaming experience. Why would you want to do that?
People still do it.
No way.
They don't have to upgrade.
It's people still, people may do
it.
They
don't have to upgrade. That's the point. They don't have to upgrade. That's the point.
Oh, you're going on a technicality, though, man. That's like saying...
That's just the fact. That's just the fact of the matter. That's the fact of the matter. They don't have to upgrade.
Because I could run an hour at the gym that I shouldn't lose weight. You know what I'm saying? Come on.
That's the fact of the matter. They don't have to upgrade.
Yeah.
It is their choice.
I don't agree at all.
It is their choice. They have the option to upgrade.
Okay. I don't agree at all, and I think a lot of people are... Who would play a game at 12 frames per second and play the entire game? Everyone typing right there. Who would play the entire game?
Castlevania, okay, I've heard people talking about Castlevania goes down to 15 frames per second on the consoles.
Yeah, for like a second. I played through the whole game. It goes like... There's like 2 scenes where like it's like maybe 5 to 10 seconds. Crysis, the entire game was like that. And the textures look like something on Nintendo 64. Who would want to play that? It's not playable. Like, you aim. Like, say you want to aim down your sights. When I had it on the Pentium 4, it was like 2 frames a second.
2 frames per second aiming down your sights.
Yeah. Literally. And I'm not exaggerating
that. If your game is running at 2 frames per second, you are on a very, very old piece of hardware. I mean, heck, you can't even run the Quake games. You can't even run the Quake games, and you want to talk about running Crysis at 2 frames per second.
Yeah, on my old Pentium 4 hyper-threading with a 6800 Ultra in it. Yes. And the rest of the game, when you got out of the sights, I don't know, whatever effect they had, I think it was the blur effect they had, where then when you went back out, it would go back up to like 12 to 15.
You can't run.
That's not a gaming experience. If let me ask you right now, okay?
There's obviously something you did wrong. If you couldn't run,
when I had all the patches for it, and I had a Pentium 4, what could I have done wrong?
You had all the minimum requirements. You had all the minimum requirements.
Minimum requirements. It ran.
The minimum requirements. The minimum requirements for Crysis run the game on medium.
No.
Yes, they run on medium.
Well, that was my hardware. And I'm being truthful about my hardware. That was my hardware for that. And the patches were installed, even though that game is still buggy as shit with the patches.
So it's your own fault that you didn't have the correct hardware.
No, it's not. Because in theory, Crysis says it can run on a single core Pentium 4 with hyperthreading. Has to have hyperthreading. Can't just be a Pentium 4.
And the minimum requirements run it on medium. That's from their official site. That's from InCrysis.com, I believe it is. Let me look it up. Crysis minimum requirements.
Persistent Thug, I still am a fan of PC gaming. That's not where I'm going with this. I'm downloading a game, like I said, on Steam. Well, it's paused because it wouldn't work with this.
Let's see. Recommended 2 gigabytes of RAM. You had that, didn't you? Recommended GTX. I'm not GTX. GT 8800. There we go.
You know, though.
Let's
I know
see.
you know. No, I'm not getting mad at all, man. This is a debate, dude.
Yeah, minimum system requirements: single core, 2.8 gigahertz or faster, memory, 1 gigabyte of RAM on XP or 1.5.
So I was above on that.
Or 1.5 on Vista. A video card that has 256 megabytes of memory, and DirectX 9, and 12 gigabytes of on your hard drive.
Mm-hmm. And I was there, and I met all those.
But you were running.
So
you had the minimum requirements, and you were running 2 frames per second.
Forrest, I just said before, and when I was aiming down the sights, the game ran between 12 and 15 for the rest of it. I did say that before too.
Who is freaking Skyping me? At the time, you had like a 6800 or something, right?
Yep. 256 was on there.
That sounds like a self-fail to me. The game came with requirements. It seems that you met the requirements, but there's probably something you're not telling us about your old PC. And you upgrade this PC, right? This is the PC you're still using today?
No, that's another HP. The one I'm using today is a build that I originally got from 2007.
Your HP is the one that didn't... Your HP computer didn't run Crysis.
Mine now is a home build.
Okay. An HP product, yeah. An HP computer.
Why would I be lying about the Crysis thing? What the hell would it matter? I'm not saying it to you. I'm saying it to someone in the text. I mean, think about it. What the hell would it matter to be talking about it?
Yeah.
Do you have any magnet? No. Not like a magnet.
There's also many other times too that minimum requirements, there's so many variables, there may be incompatibility issues with your motherboard.
Even the recommended requirements are like 4 or 5 years ago. Core 2 Duo, 2.2 gigahertz, 2 gigabytes of RAM, GTS 8800.